Hello, everyone. Welcome to this installment of Red Nation Celebration Institute's monthly screening and Q&A series. My name is Tayana David, and I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our work takes place on unceded and occupied territories of the 575 plus Native nations. So with that, today, I'm very excited that we're speaking about the groundbreaking 1977 film, The Girl Called Hatter Fox. Based on the book by Marilyn Harris, it was produced and directed by George Schaefer and stars Ronnie Cox and none other than RNCI's founder, Joanelle Romero. Welcome, Joanelle. It's so nice to be speaking with you about this film.
Hi, Tiana, and hi, everyone out there. This is really a wonderful opportunity to share with you the 45th anniversary of The Girl Called Hatter Fox. And we've never had an interview really on this film since it aired 45 years ago. So this is very exciting. It only took us 45 years.
Wow, Joanelle, the 45th anniversary of such a really revolutionary film. When I watched it, I was very moved. I thought it was excellent. I mean, the producing, the acting, the directing, the editing, it was just a top-notch production all around. And I hope that as many people as possible get to see it. And for those of you who don't know, today is an all-day streaming event of The Girl Called Hatter Fox on Red Nation Television Network. So you can just go to rednationtv.com to subscribe and be able to watch until midnight tonight. This is Wednesday, March 3rd, Pacific time. So we hope that you tune in. Now, Joanelle, in this film, as we know, a doctor played by Ronnie Cox battles against superstition and prejudice to try to save a young Native girl played by you who's been sent to a state reform school. Now, I just want to give a little context and ask you, between 1869 and the 1960s here in the United States, and even a little bit later up in Canada, I believe, hundreds of thousands of Native American children were removed from their homes and families and placed in boarding schools operated by the federal government and various churches. So to make this film, the fact that it was produced and aired on national television in 1977, just shortly after residential schools had closed, was pretty revolutionary. Do you agree that it was a big step at that time?
Well, Tiana, it was a ginormous step forward, right? And, to not only CBS and their team have the vision of, producing and getting the rights to the book, but to actually film it, it was the first contemporary Native woman story ever produced in film history. And I just, all the memories I have, this was my first leading role. And it was the first time that a Native actress carried a contemporary story, right? And it was a very big deal back then. I recall that they went for a year to all the reservations all over the country looking for Hatter Fox. And so I was at my mom's one day, and Bob Dylan's right-hand guy, Louis Kemp, his sister Sharon Kemp, came over to my mom's house, and she met me and she goes, "Are you an actress?" And my mom said, "Yes, she is." And she said, "I'm going to put Joanelle up for this role." And so I said, "Okay." And when I went to the audition at CBS, right, it was at Radford at CBS, I borrowed a John Barrymore's jeans for good luck, and I ripped them all up. I went barefooted. I went with a black plain shirt. I didn't comb my hair. It was all just a mess. And I had no makeup, and I dug my toes and my fingernails in the dirt for good luck and to make them really dirty, right? And I had my grandpa's uh, uh, poncho with me for good luck. And I went in, and all these actresses were dressed up like I am today, and they had all their jewelry on, and traditional skirts on, and all of that. And I walked in like how I looked, and which was the character. And when you sign in for a reading, they say, what's your name? And I said, I'm Hatter Fox. So I never used my name. And then when they took me in to read, the director goes, okay, slate your name. George said, slate your name. And I said, I'm Hatter Fox. And they all looked at each other and they said, you got it.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
Janelle, how old were you, and had you been doing some acting prior to this?
I was 17, and it was released when I turned 18. But up until that time, I was doing a lot of music in New Mexico and here in LA, and I was doing plays, acting in plays and modeling.
And your mom was a performer, right?
Well, my mom was an actress. She was signed to Universal Pictures, and she was featured in a lot of Elvis Presley films, and she was the bikini girl on the Red Skelton show. So I was very fortunate and very blessed to be able to go with my mom. She would take me on the set. So it was I was like 9, 10 years old. So I have witnessed and learned my craft by watching, right? By watching
Mhm.
Elvis Presley, by watching Red Skelton, by watching Carol Burnett and Nancy Sinatra and all these fabulous, wonderful directors and producers and crew do their thing, right? At a very young age, yeah.
So I'm curious about your experience working with Ronnie Cox, who played Dr. Summer. He had a lot of experience and continued to be sort of a leading man in many films. Did you learn from him on set?
Well, I learned that he had a trailer and I didn't. No. Just teasing. Um, that's funny. Ronnie was really, really helpful and very generous with me. He really actually was very kind, very kind man to me, because I was raised in a home where I wasn't raised with racism or any of those really intense feelings, or I was really sheltered in that way. I guess, I don't know if it was intentional, but that was never in our home, that kind of dialogue, right? So when I got on the set, I remember I was in Albuquerque, and when I got to the hotel after filming one day, I called my mom and I was crying. I was devastated. And she said, what's the matter? What's happening on the set? And I said, they don't like me because I'm Indian. There's a lot of racism. And I just felt like I was just dumped in this world, and it was just racist. And that was my first real introduction to even having those kind of feelings or thoughts or anything like that. So it was really, really intense. It added to my character, of course, but I mean, I used it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Hatter Fox, the character you played, she also suffered a lot of discrimination, and the girls didn't like her, and in fact they beat her up. And so I imagine that you were able to draw on, sadly, the real life experience that you were having on the set.
Well, when I was 17 filming this, I didn't know my story yet, right? So when I was a teenager, I'm a sexual assault survivor. But back then I didn't look at it that way. It was just all the stuff inside of me. So what I did to tap into Hatter Fox was I went on this journey of and this friend of mine, his name was Dove, African American man who I've he was like an angel. He just like was there and then he was gone. And he took my hand and he helped me get into this character.
Mm.
And I really tapped into feelings, unearthing these feelings that I had of sexual abuse, and using the racism and how I grew up in school, and in Catholic school, and all of that, all those nuns, and getting slapped by them, just all those elements I used in this character. And I really tapped in to where after the film people will go, you need to step out of this character. I knew how to get into a character. I didn't know how to get out of the character. It took me a few years, because as an actress, if you're really good at what you do, you really tap in and become that other person, psychically, on all levels, and I did that with Hatter Fox.
You sure did. It really shows. And, the first half or more of the film, Hatter Fox isn't even speaking. There's so much internal life and strife going on, which you captured so well. And so it's interesting to hear your process and the trauma, your own personal trauma, that you were actually unearthing in order to bring so much to playing her.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. And they wanted to make a TV series out of it
Oh,
afterwards. And but it obviously it didn't happen.
hey, maybe it's still in the works and you'll get a phone call tomorrow.
Well, what happened to the girl called Hatter Fox? I don't know.
Well, Janelle, you've referred to The Girl Called Hatter Fox as the first Native Me Too story. Are there parallels between the 70s and some of the horrible situations that were exposed in terms of the boarding schools and the assault that was just so rampant then, and today in the Me Too movement as it relates to Native American women?
When the black robes came over, uh, you know,
The black robes, do you want to just explain that for people who might not be familiar?
right. So the black robes are like when the the religious groups came over, and the churches, the black robes, the Catholics, the all of that came over. They immediately, there was an immediate rape of our women and our boys. It was immediate. And when the ships came over, that was also immediate. So this has been going, this trauma, this historical trauma has been happening, for over 500 years. And today, what the difference is from then to today is that we have media, and we're able to talk about it and bring it to the forefront. And that's why in 2018, we launched Why We Wear Red Call to Action, working with, Secretary Madam Deb Haaland and others to bring the issue forward. Because you look at Hatter Fox back 45 years ago and today within media, on primetime television, episodic television, right? So this was done in 1977, and today there are no Native actresses in leading roles on the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, at all. There's in cable, and that's fabulous. That's wonderful. I'm excited about that. There's movement there. But on the major networks, no, there isn't. And so that's, and when we launched the lack of Native women in film and our missing and Indigenous women, the rapes and all of that, and the murders that go on, there's a direct link to that. Because if we're not seen and heard, we don't matter, And so we, with our call to action, we woke up a few people, and there was a couple of TV series where there was a lead Native actress, but now there's not. I mean, that lasted for a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's gone. And there was a time between 2003 and 2019 where there was no Native actresses working on episodic television. So it's a big um, pandemic, not only within the um, television industry, but in a global crisis of our missing and Indigenous women.
Yes, indeed. And so, along those lines, what's your vision? How do you see representation growing in the media in the next 5, 10 years? What does success look like for you? All of the work that you're doing to bring Native voices and Native women's voices to the screen.
Well, what we've been doing is we have our Red Nation Celebration Institute, and this August will be 27. And under that banner, we have Red Nation International Film Festival, which is the largest Native film festival in the country. And this coming March 20th to the 24th, we have our Native Women in Film and Television Film Festival, and that's in its 13th year. And then we have our Red Nation Television Network. And those three outlets, those three platforms, we've been doing this for a hot minute, right? So we keep breaking that glass ceiling and breaking those doors and opening that envelope wider and bigger and globally. And in regards to the industry, I want to remain hopeful, and I want to, and remain positive. And but I don't, on episodic television, there's nothing, right? So I mean, before the talkies, we were working more than we are now. So we have a long ways to go. So everyone out there that's listening, my only big prayer and inspiration to give you is to support organizations like ours and others that are making this difference and pushing these envelopes forward. That's like a big, huge stone, mother stone, pushing this up this huge mountain, right? And it's going to take, it probably won't happen in my lifetime. And I recognize that, but it's not going to stop me and our team from moving the dial forward.
Well, that's a wonderful vision, Janelle, and I love the call to action for everybody working in the industry to bring more Native American and Indigenous talent behind the camera,
Yeah.
creating the stories, because who tells the story matters, right?
Yes. Well, it does matter. And, we have always, with our team, our institute and our board of directors, have always recognized, obviously our Native talent, right? But there's also our allies that create Native content. So we are very inclusive of them as well. And we've been having internal dialogues about that because we need to, and we need to be inclusive, because this is a bigger picture that's going to take a minute, I mean, because of Standing Rock and then Black Lives Matter, we have maybe just a little bit have moved the needle just a little bit, but I mean, we still have a lot of work to do. There's millions of stories. And the great thing about this, right? The great thing about this is that our stories haven't been told. So all the networks, all the film producers out there, keep regurgitating the same story over and over and over with different faces and different facelifts and different this and different that. But we have stories that haven't even been tapped into. It's a whole market. It's a whole economic development that hasn't even been tapped into yet. We're just barely. So that's real exciting to me. That gives me hope. That generates inspiration inside of my spirit to keep moving forward in my grandchildren, right? So that they have something. And all the children that are on the reservations and across globally that are in villages, that can see themselves on television and on cable and on film. It's very important to me.
Wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
Janelle, you are now a producer and, of course, the director of Red Nation Celebration Institute and so much more, but you began as an actress. And so I'm wondering what advice you might have to a young Native American or Indigenous actress who might be watching this today.
Do not give up. Do not give up. I'm an example of that. Do not give up. And you alone believe in yourself, because there may be people on your path that believe in you, but they fall by the wayside. So it has to come from an internal belief system, an internal trust of oneself to carry your vision forward, right? And this is for everybody, and the young actress that's out there on the reservation or in the city, urban cities, just don't give up. There's so many that I stand on the shoulders of, and then you could stand on my shoulders and other shoulders, and we leave the ladder down. And you have talent, and don't let anyone tell you that you don't.
That's really valuable. As we start to come to a close, Janelle, I was struck by something. It's actually the second to last line in the whole film. And
Oh.
you and Dr. Summer, you're driving away in his Jeep. He saved you.
That's funny. I don't want to, I won't go there, but go ahead.
And he says, there isn't an Indian world and a white man's world. There's only this world, and you're going to have to live in it. What did he mean by that, Janelle? And is that true? Is that something we're working towards as a culture? Any reflections you have about that?
Well, we all have red blood, even our animals. So there's only one water, one sun, one moon, one earth, one sky, and we're all here together. So it would be auspicious of us to partner and to support each other's efforts, or congratulate each other or honor each other for the work that we all do, because at the end of the day, humanity is we have to go back to the heart, right? We have to connect with our heart again. So one way to connect with your heart again is to do something good for someone and not tell anyone, and to take your shoes off and put your feet in the earth and put your hands on Mother Earth and feel her. And that may connect you back to your inner self. And I know that that helps me ground myself. Yeah.
Thank you. That's just so beautiful and just rich and real and vulnerable. And I know that our viewers are really going to appreciate you speaking from your heart, telling us a little bit about how to maybe connect with our hearts more, because you're absolutely right, Janelle. That's what our world needs more of, to orient us in the right direction for a more thriving future for not just people, but all creatures on this earth. So thank you. Thank you. Gosh, this has been such a delight speaking with you and learning a little bit more about how The Girl Called Hatter Fox came to be made, how you ended up getting cast in it, and the inner resources that you brought to it. It's such an important film. I want everyone who can to see it, because there's a lot of value and heart, frankly, in the film. So again, you can go to rednationtv.com to subscribe to be able to access a lot of content, including today, The Girl Called Hatter Fox. So please do that. And Janelle, why don't you talk about the Facebook page and anywhere else you might direct viewers to go to find out more?
Well, you can always visit rednationff.com. You can also visit rednationtv.com, and you can visit nativewomeninfilm.com. And you could look for us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's all Red Nation FF. We're all over the place over there. So it's easy to find us, I think.
Thank you, Janelle. That's a perfect way to end. So, to everybody, have a beautiful rest of your day. And we look forward to seeing you next month or sooner for the next installment of the conversation screening and Q&A series. I'm Tayana David, and thank you again, Joanelle Romero. See you later.
Thank you, Tiana. Love you.